Richie, I just want to ask you, mate. So we had Big Nella, Tony Alatupo, on the show a few weeks ago, and obviously he came up through Sacred Heart there, and he was talking about, being, this superstar, this prospect the whole way through. You sort of have had a different career path. I mean, 3 years of first 15 at St Andrews is one thing, but you really had to bide your time through that NPC setup, yeah. And then by the time you got a full-time contract in 2015, you had Tom Taylor, Colin Slade, and Dan Carter in front of you. And it wasn't until all three of them pissed off at the end of the season you got a Guernsey, and you've kicked on since then. But I just want to get your thoughts on like how, like, is it difficult to try to bide your time through that system there, or like it must be really difficult sometimes to obviously have arguably the greatest rugby player of all time ahead of you, plus two other bona fide All Blacks in front of you. Like, take us through the process of having to sort of sit there on the bench and like watch day in, day out these guys ahead of you before you can really get an opportunity to shine.
Bro, like, to me, from the perspective that I had when I was a bit younger, was like how lucky I was to be in that position. Like, there was no negative spin to that. Like, being in behind Carter, Colin Slade, Tyler Blundell, Tom Taylor, like, it was like more like, how lucky am I to be here learning from these guys? So it was more the perspective I had. Like, I didn't make New Zealand secondary schools, and at the time I didn't make it. I got told over the phone, and I was crying in the car, man. Like, it was like, I thought to myself, like, this is the end of my rugby career. Like, because usually what happens when you play school footy, the boys they kick on to secondary schools, and then they end up playing Super Rugby and they play for the All Blacks. Like, that was the pathway. That's just what happened to all the great players that played in secondary schools. So it was hard for me to take, but being from Christchurch, as I said, I was only ever going to play for the Crusaders, and it didn't matter how long it took. It didn't matter how hard the journey was ahead. I was so focused to becoming a Crusader, and things went my way. Like, I waited a bit. I did my time.
Yeah.
I learned a whole lot, and then it just happened that all of them left at the same time, and it wasn't easy going. Even when I got the gig, like, I had a terrible year in 2016. I started every game, but I was goal kicking like I was bloody Stevie Wonder. I didn't know what I was doing.
You and me both.
It was all over my head, and through that tough time and that tough period, I learnt a lot, and I got to where I am now, which is where I knew I was going to be. Without sounding like an arrogant prick, like, it just was the vision I had, and nothing was going to stop me to get here. So I was grateful for those hardships, because it made me the man I am today.